really feel like.
All right, it's one. I just hit the live button, so somebody please check.
Later.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right, I'm about to play music.
Okay.
I got us.
I can't hear the music at all.
I can't. I hear you. I have a light undertone because you know I got my speaker on.
Yes, get it. Yes, all of it. Don't forget the corners. All right.
Love Beyonce arms and 1 and 2.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is your girl Dizzy, and welcome to another episode of What You Got to Say. I have my crazy co-host in the building today. What's up, Mr. Cabana Blaq? How are you, my friend?
I'm excited. I'm that dude, and we're gonna have an exciting show.
And what's up, Miss Cool Candice? You in the building? How are you, ma'am?
What up, y'all? It is time to chop it up.
Mr. Tyrone Greggory, how you doing this fine Sunday morning, sir?
What's going on? Gang, gang, brand new beard. Who's this?
No doubt. And last but not least, what's up, Kela Mahogany?
Hey, y'all. I'm ready.
You ready? All right. So, of course, you see that we have some new faces on the screen with us today. So I'd like to introduce our guests, and then we'll get into our subject topic. So first, I would like to welcome Mr. Shane to the stage. Shane, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, you can call me Skittles because you can taste the rainbow.
Oh, come on here.
That's the type of energy I want to say. That's the type of energy.
Yeah, long time ally. I met a veteran, I've been a dependent, I've lived most of my life overseas. I'm a recent transplant to the US. That's been an adjustment. Yeah.
All right.
I'm accredited, I'm educated, I can do this. Come on.
You can do this. Come on. I hear you. All right. Our next guest is Miss Tiff. Tiff, tell us about yourself and welcome.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Anyway, yeah, I'm from Virginia. Part of the LGBTQ XYZ community.
Alphabet City Boo.
You know, creative. I direct shows. I do, a multitude of things. But yeah, this is cool. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Awesome. If you guys haven't recognized who she is, Miss Tiff was one of the ones that kind of swooped in on my surprise birthday show that Cabana coordinated for me.
We got you.
Longtime friend, and I've known Mr. Shane for over 20 years. And last but not least, Mr. Drury. Welcome, Mr. Drury, to the show.
Welcome.
Mr. Drury, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh Lord. I normally don't talk about myself a lot, but I can probably talk this whole hour myself if you let me. I don't know. Photographer, just I'm kind of person that's always down for the get down. Just if we need to organize a walkout, let's just do it. Why ask permission? So yeah.
About
I guess that's a big thing in my life is activism and pretty much just I'm not very social. I love COVID. I don't go out a lot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope we keep social distancing. Stand 6 feet away from me at all times.
It wouldn't do anything different.
The mask and stuff, that's annoying, but I'm okay with my bubble. But
all right. Cool.
Okay, I don't really know what else to say. Yeah.
That's all right. Activists and said, let's walk the hell out. We don't need permission. I like that. I'm down for that.
Yeah. I'm a little more Huey than I am Malcolm, but I can get X every now and then. I can just be
okay.
Let's just set some shit on fire. Let's do it.
Gotcha. So here's the subject that we decided to discuss today. So of course, I'm sure, well, I won't say I'm sure you read, because sometimes, you know, people don't read, they like pictures. But today's subject is oppression. All right, so oppression by definition is being subject to prolonged, cruel, and or unjust treatment or control. Now, we all know that this comes in many forms, and oftentimes the wounds that come from oppression are compared or even contrasted and can lead to bitterness on both fronts. So I have friends of all shapes, sizes, colors, races, creeds, religions, whatever, lack thereof, all of these. And I was looking to see, how do we recognize oppression across several scales? And, you know, because several different communities have experienced it. Right now, today, we're specifically talking about the LGBTQ community and the African American community. And they've both experienced some sort of oppression. But how do we fix, embrace, move forward with this without it turning into like a competition? So basically, my broke arm is worse than your broke arm. We both got broke arms. You can't write, I can't write. But why are we gonna sit here and fuss about whose arm is the brokest? So I guess what my first question is going to be, if there has to be a comparison, if we even have to do that, what do you feel is worse and why? If you even feel that there is one. If you don't, it's fine. Go ahead, Mr. Shane.
I do feel like when we start comparing those situations, I think the most important thing is that we look at where we're coming from, like how we're framing our perspective in that moment. As I was mentioning to you earlier this week, some longtime family friends took issue with me creating a very clear boundary in my life for the safety and the health of my family. I decided if you were one of the people that, you know, we're still looking after 45, we weren't going to be cool anymore. Because there's a lot of things that administration did that impacted my family's safety and things. And one of the people that one of the feedbacks or one of the lashbacks that I got from that was this woman was like, we've been friends for 30 years, but if that's how you're going to make your choices, you're not the man I thought you were. And when I responded and I was like, you need to understand what I've been through in the last 4 years and how I've gotten to this point. You know, this hasn't just been I didn't wake up overnight and just start freaking out about this stuff. There's been a long trail of antagonistic behavior that has cost me the security of my family. And the response was, I'm Hispanic. You think I don't know what it's like? You need to hush. You can't tell me anything. And now I was like, well, great. You've dismissed this entire argument. You've not, this isn't a conversation anymore. You want to lecture, and that's fine. But I'm not going to participate in this. Because, you know, if in my journey in the last year, it has been apparent that people are genuinely not in tune with what's called automatic thought processes. And what those things are is when you encounter a phenomenon enough, whether it be road rage or racism or just dismissal at your work or discrimination or prejudice, you have an automatic thought process. You have the gears that your mind goes through to get you ready to deal with this situation. And unfortunately, sometimes those automatic thought processes come at the cost of our better self. So when somebody says that to me, automatically they're no longer a friend, they're the enemy. So my emotional reaction in that moment is to tag off and to do that. And so I do think when we start comparing grievances, we lose that perspective almost automatically, unless we're really doing the work to tune in on it and identify what it is about the situation that we can find parallels and hopefully make those parallels work, or just not at all. That's my thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Just I mean, I agree pretty much with everything you said. Like that's and even I mean, I think part of the thing was like when I read the framing of what the episode was going to be, like in like the intent, like you said, the catalyst of why we're here for this conversation was a Facebook post, and the conversation there, and like I guess the thing that concerned me most was the use of the word bitter, because like even in that conversation, my intent wasn't to be like, oh, well, you know, gays have it worse, you know, and blacks have it worse, and the Latinos have it this way. And it was more just to bring up the conversation that there are a lot more equity, I can't say the word, allegories, and parallel the different human rights struggles have been throughout history. Like the people that are marginalized today and disenfranchised today are the people that have been mostly disenfranchised and oppressed and discriminated against since the dawn of time. I mean, like and so when you look on it at a macro scale rather than micro scale, you know, like, you know, I mean, there's forms of oppression that we as just Americans, period, don't understand because we're not over there. Like, so, but there's patterns throughout history and documentation throughout history, like, that I don't think a lot of people like once you get outside of your own ecosystem, like your own comfort level with your oppression and your, you know, how you view the world and how your community views the world, there's like a whole, like that's, you know, it's not linear. It's not even like it's not a circle anymore. It's a sphere. You know, I mean, as far as like, you know, it's not just about, you know, what's it like to be black and white? And then it's like, well, what's it like to be black and white and gay? And then what, you know, and those are the lines coming out, gay or, you know, I don't know, your faith or whatever. These are all spokes coming out from that inner dialogue you have in your head about what your identity is.
Okay.
Well,
So,
I think
in comparing that, oh, sorry. And it's just that comparing that to other people, it's like, how do you know? You haven't lived my life. Like, you know, and why hate people you've never met? Like, what's the point? You don't make friends. You don't get paid for not meeting people, for hating people that you're not going to associate with. Like, so until you meet them, know some of their story, keep your mouth shut. Like, don't hate on them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just, like, something one thing that I wanted to bring up was, I was reading an article about what they call walking while trans laws, which is similar to walking while black laws, where it's basically just for the way in which this person wants to dress, they get harassed by law enforcement and attacked and, you know, arrested for the assumption of solicitation or prostitution, simply for the manner of dress. And I mean, it happens to me all the time if I go out prostitutes. Cops will fucking pull me over to know why the fuck I'm in heels. And I'm like, because it's none of your fucking business. Like, so we have to understand that there are a lot of parallels between these different movements and these different, you know, hopes for an evolution and human decency, really. But, you know, and, you know, in our identity, I mean, our identity is like 80% of who we are. It frames everything. You know, our personality, you know, how we see the world. Like, and you can't, like, limiting that just seems stupid. So that's why I don't get people like the Proud Boys and it's like, yay, cool. Like, you think you're cooler than me. Well, that's cool. Then stay over there and shut up about it. And that's the thing is, like, I hear on conservative media all the time that, oh, the LGBT agenda or the Black agenda or this agenda, and just everybody's agenda is just leave me the fuck alone and mind your business. That's pretty much everybody's agenda. Even like you don't want the government in our shit.
It probably should be everyone's agenda. If you stay out of my business and mind your own, then maybe less conflict, right? You know? Go ahead, Candice. And then I got you, Cabana. I got you.
I'm cool.
To kind of piggyback on what he was saying, I think and also to answer your question, I think when you try and compare and contrast the two on whether whose struggle is the biggest or who has it worse off, in your split-second decision of how you're thinking about that person, it's like you almost lose humanity, the human decency that you have for what that person could be going through or what they are going through currently or in the past. You'll look at, you know, how a person is carrying themselves and what they're having to deal with on a daily basis. And like, okay, walk a mile in my shoes if you're trying to figure out exactly how I'm feeling or how I'm having to deal with things. But that's the little bubble or the little ecosystem that, you know, each person is kind of in on their own. When you looking at other cultures, when you're looking at other religions and you're looking at other genders and other people of what they've had to go through and what their ancestors have gone through, some people will revert back to, well, if it was a Black person, like, oh, well, my ancestors were slaves. Okay, well, women in the Middle East are still being oppressed because they still have, some of them still have to wrap themselves up and you can only see their eyes. Right. You know, so are you trying to compare and contrast, you know, their women's rights versus our women's rights? Or what are you trying to go against? Well, we still have Native Americans that are here who claim that you know, America, the land of the free. The land of the free is on stolen land. This is the take. So you have, you know, people that were here and were given blankets to make them so nice and warm, where they can take this lovely trail down this golden brick road and find this beautiful plot of land.
Enjoy your polio.
They just gave him smallpox. Here's smallpox. Go die.
Exactly.
Like,
so you can't kind of, you lose the humanity in the human decency of trying to understand what another person is going through when you try and compare and contrast my struggle versus your struggle. Everybody's struggling. We all got something to prove. We all got something to make it through, and we're all trying to get to a certain place. In us all trying to do that, treat everybody like fucking humans. Right. We're alive.
Right.
You treat some dogs better than you treat a gay person, or you treat your fucking house cat better than you would treat a gay person or a Black person that you out of your element. Who gave you this job? How'd you make it up here? Been affirmative action. Oh my God, I got 3 goddamn degrees. I wish fuck you would come in my face and tell me I got affirmative action.
Come on, shotgun.
We're not doing that. So I think it takes away from it when you try and compare and contrast each person's struggle. Everybody's going through something. We're all just want to be treated like humans.
Hold on, let me get Cabana. All right, go ahead, Cabana.
Okay, so I'm gonna be very, I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna be very deliberate because I'm very passionate because of who I am in this conversation. And I decided yesterday to have random conversations yesterday with people I didn't know, just to talk my point across, to make sure that what I said today was clear, because I feel like a lot of reality is missing in conversations and people don't get to the point. And the point is, the first word is selfishness. You know, we are built in a world that is selfish. And the reason that people don't want to have the conversation of what is greater and what is less than is because they don't want to feel less than. But if we look at the world and we say to ourselves what it is, we will realize that we are, first, let's talk about the Black part of this conversation. Let's talk about that oppression. See, this is a very layered thing, like a layered cake. So if the bigger problem is the oppression on Black people, which were slaves, and let's, you know, and hold there and stay focused. You might as well put your hand down, because it's better to put your hand down and listen, because then you'll be able to hear me. Because the thing about it is, we already talked about, sometimes we listen to respond instead of understanding. You have to separate each culture to find out what each culture is. You have to also live life. You have to travel. You have to get culture in. You have to see other things. And I've been fortunate because a lot of times people will talk about something that they don't know.
Okay, I'm just stop right there. It sounds like you're accusing me of not knowing.
Not accusing. He's taking
opportunity.
Are you convicted?
He's talking.
Hold on a second. You're the first one that's being really aggressive. And
no, he's talking. He's talking.
I mean, I get it, like.
No, you don't get the opportunity.
But you need to listen.
Hold on, just listen. We gave you your chance. He's talking his piece.
That's what I'm saying.
We still got 3 other people that got to talk. I wanted that response.
And I just proved my point. My point was proven just now. I deliberately set up myself to be the fork in the road, because the job of understanding is to make people have uncomfortable conversations. But
That's
first,
my favorite kind of conversation.
but
All I
first of
talk
all,
about
you have
is
to
race.
listen.
Then you got to learn how to have a
Oh,
conversation.
You're not
man.
even
The
listening.
thing is, we have to understand. You
But
have to
no,
understand.
I
This is
will
what
not
happened.
understand. I'm
What
not
happened
going to
that
allow you
that
to
stopped
speak.
the
I'm not
conversation
going to allow you
down
to
this
say
road.
anything.
Hold
And I'm
in the
going
on,
to
first
hold
place.
on,
talking
hold
over you.
on,
And
hold
all,
on, hold
it's not that
on,
I'm
hold
trying to talk
on.
over
We're
you.
gonna pause.
It's that
We're gonna
okay.
pause.
You're gonna put
We
them
are
on
going
mute.
to pause
it's okay.
because we are going to pause
You
because
better
what
put
I
them on
said,
mute.
because what I said was that we were going to give everybody the opportunity to speak. So we allowed Drew and Drewry. I'm going to unmute you. So right now you're muted. We can't hear anything you're saying. And I'll do it to anybody else during this conversation. We allowed Shane to speak. We did not interrupt Shane. We allowed you to speak. We didn't interrupt you. So just because he's coming from another direction doesn't make him wrong and his statement has not been completed. We're gonna have a chance to come back around, but we still got 4 other people that's got something to say. So what I said, and I don't know if you've done, this is what we typically do. When stuff starts coming in your head that you want to respond, write it, because we're gonna let you say it. I'm gonna let you say it, but what we're not gonna do is not allow his statement to be completed and write down what you don't agree with. I've already written down, I was gonna ask you a question about trans walking laws because I don't know about it, but I didn't interrupt you while you were talking about it. So that's the level of respect that we're gonna try to have on the show. I want to hear your points just as much as I want to hear Tyrone, Greggory, Kela, Tiffany, everybody. But we're not going to interrupt each other because I'm learning, and I can't learn with 2 teachers yelling in the ear. We can't learn that way. We will never move forward if we don't listen. So write down what you want to say. I'll get back to you. I promise. I promise you. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Cabana.
Let me say this, and let me be real clear, because there is a difference, like she said, against aggression and passion. So now you're getting a little bit of both. Because the problem is that people don't want to listen. And so instead of you recognizing what I had to say, you couldn't have heard anything but the choice words that I did say. So my information was incomplete. So there, I'm gonna start there first. And now I'm gonna go back to my subject and I'm gonna bring myself down. Okay.
The last thing you said, we talked about selfish. You said about if we say it's just one or the other, then that is a level of selfishness. And then after that, I kind of got lost.
It's a level of selfishness, meaning like sometimes we don't want to accept truth. I feel like people get in the habit of making us comfortable so we can have this lullaby fantasy of the reality of America. I've just gotten on this show, and in the time that I've gotten on this show, I've come to realize about the America that I didn't want to accept. The things that have happened, not just to Blacks and Indians and Jews, but we are talking about Black people and Jew and the gay community, which I'm both. So therefore, my conversation and my focus is intentional on this subject. And a lot of times, the playing field is this. If you are Black, we already know what we're dealing with because we see it on a daily basis and we see it in our history. What happens is people become selective. Just like there's colorism and anything else, then it's like, well, he's Black and he's gay, or he's light skinned. You know, we decide and choose what deserves respect. And that is where the competition actually comes in, because people feel then a defense. They have to fight for themselves because they come into circles of even their own community and feel, because we just had a conversation last week as far as like me and men being a gay man, trying to be in a safe place. It's this, I didn't want to do it because sometimes there's already something put up about me. And so what I wanted to say is, yes, it can be very heavy for our community because I'm Black and I'm gay and I'm a man. So you have 3 things, but I think we need to focus on the cultural aspect of the issues. And we know the history of the gay community has been terrible. They have been beaten and killed. And we know the history of the Black community that's been beaten and killed. But sometimes we don't take the time to understand our part in it. And our part in it is my new word that I'm going to create. I call it clickisms. We create and we shape these cliques within these communities that bring about division instead of diversity. They bring about less communication and they bring more confrontation, i.e., what just happened. We have got to be able to hear, to understand, to listen, to love, and to learn to move forward. Because if we don't do those things, then that is where the problem for me personally occurs. Because after I had the conversation with these individuals that weren't gay, that some of them said, well, I don't believe in gay people. Boom. Then I'm never gonna be for you.
Right.
Some people was like, well, you know, Black people are cool. Black people are cool. We're not human. Black people are cool.
Yeah.
Then some people was like, oh, but why are you gay? You so handsome. What? So therefore, I'm saying to you, it's a layered situation. And now I will say to you, jury, excuse my passion, but that's what happens when you don't listen. Now your turn.
Okay, so there's two people who wanted to respond, and I see you too, Tiff. So
Okay.
quick,
Can I just do one thing? Can I just explain one thing? The reason I put my hand up.
Let me finish. Quick.
Okay, it was a technique anyway.
All right, quick jury. Then I saw Shane, your hand, and then Tiff, I'm gonna let you go because I saw your hand. So I'm gonna do Drury, Shane, then Tiff as the response to Cabana. Got it?
Gregory.
All right, go ahead, Drury.
Okay, no, it's just real quick. Basically, when we did this stuff, because that protest, this shit gets fucking, like, especially when I'm sitting here arguing against a fucking neo-Nazi, like you have a system, and it's just different than y'all's and there's, the head ones where it's like, continue this conversation, I'm gonna have to walk away, raise your hand, if you have something to point. And they had somebody that was like, you would be on staff, and you're like, okay, you're next, and then you're next, and you're next. But the person that was on would, I guess, give the concession to where, okay, I'm gonna wrap this little part up real quick, let them kind of respond. If it's a whole new question, we'll get to it in a minute. But if I can just kind of give you like, well, this, and then keep going. Right. It's kind of like a check. It's a check onto the crowd. It's like before you get too far in the conversation that those comments aren't, it's not that you don't want to, it's just that they're not relevant anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So you don't feel, so if you're that person that had your hand up in that, you're dealing with like hundreds of people. So if you're, but mostly the people in the front are the ones with the questions. You have to be able to respond a lot quicker,
Right.
And
but so no, we don't.
In order to not interrupt people, that's when I raise my hand. And it's not, but it's not that like I'm trying to like butt in. And like when I did the initial, because nobody's been regressive yet. So with my mental health and my past trauma and things like that, like at protests, that immediate aggression is definitely a fucking trigger for me. Like, I will shut down, get very calculating, and my words will be crass, direct, and absolutely fucking just on point with fucking history and fucking struggles and fucking who does and does not have civil rights. Like, just right fucking now, just Friday, LGBT people got civil rights. Think about that. 50 years since the Civil Rights Amendment, gay people just got civil rights. We can no longer, and it is, I mean, all throughout the Midwest and the South, you can still go to places where you can't still can't eat at lunch counters, and you can't go to take it because there's no federal protections because the way you believe, you can just tell a faggot to get the fuck out of your restaurant, and I can't sue you. Mm. There's no federal protections. Most states don't have state protections. Mm-hmm. So I can't even do that. Like the same, the same rights that were given during the civil rights movement to women and Blacks has not been given to the LGBT community until 2 days ago. And then until 6 months ago, well, 8 months in June, the Supreme Court just ruled that we can't be fired from our places of work simply based on our orientation.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. Look how far we've come with the civil rights movement. Like, you know, there's still implementation of that 50 years, well, over half a century later, that we still are fucking having problems with.
Yeah.
And LGBT people, as far as civil rights, like, yeah, they gave us marriage, but I don't plan to get married. It doesn't affect me. I mean, we can still, even though we're married in this country, if the hospitals, particularly in rural areas, if the hospital is affiliated with a church that's evangelical, they can refuse you care. And if it's the only one in your rural area, that's significant. And then on top, and that indiscriminately, like, I mean, people talk about how disproportionality, right? So, like, you know, because I mean, especially with Black Lives Matter, Black men, I mean, and the thing is, to tell you the truth, like, I know those statistics. I agree with it all. Yeah. Like the disproportionality of Black men going to, you know, going to prison for fucking having a dime bag of weed, you know, but it's similar to the fact that the reason we have sodomy laws all over the country is to criminalize out the gays, gay men specifically, because it's still used. I mean, until those laws weren't given, there's 7 states that still have the sodomy laws, and they disproportionately affect gay men, and that could be Black gay men. I mean, you're screwed if you're trans, Black, and fucking, like, I mean, it's
whatever else in that slew of
like,
things.
whatever the fuck else you are, you know, disabled and fucking colorblind, what, you know, maybe you're half, you know, Indian, and you came from a very strict, like, you know, not Jane, there's another one that, anyway, that would be a tangent, sorry. But no, you can, so there are things, and it's like, well, that's what I was trying to get to, and it's not, that there's a lot, I think because you get centric in your own circle, a lot, you know, for good reason, and for very, you know, I'll never know what it's like to be a Black man in America. It's never something I'll know, but I know what it's like to every single day I go out here, even if I'm just in normal dude clothes with a pair of heels on, in maybe 3 hours of being out, I will have at least 24 Black dudes say
We're gonna hit that. I want you to pause that, because
they would be like, look at this faggot, and go and be like, that's some gay shit.
Drew, that's on my schedule. That's on my schedule. I want to hit that.
Anyway, so when we're talking about respect within the community,
understand that we will get to the subject.
Okay.
I do. I have that.
But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of continuity as far as the crossover, where yes, where young Blacks are being put disproportionately in, young Black men are disproportionately being put in jail, period, because our entire for-profit prison system is nothing more than taking the plantation and putting a fucking cage around.
I agree, Drew.
So,
I agree. We're going to go on that, because now we're going on a tangent, and I still got other people.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
But
sorry.
two of the things.
I apologize. But dude, I'm passionate too. I get it. It's
cool,
just that,
cool. Look, I had to stop him too.
There was a moment I was like, I was like, what?
Nah. It's
Okay.
passion. It's passion. Don't be offended. Yes,
Okay.
Shane, and then Tiff, and then I'll go to Kela or Greg, whoever is next. Shane.
I'm gonna be honest. You might want to ready the mute button. So for one, in this conversation, we can really address white knight syndrome. You know, the first thing I did when preparing for this opportunity to come and be a part of this dialectic that I appreciate and I support was, I confronted my own privilege, my own experience, like what I don't suffer through because of the fact that I'm a cisgendered white dude who has the luxury of walking down the street, and until I open my mouth or shake my ass, you don't know where I fall on the spectrum. Typically, as soon as I do, you gonna get the picture. But one of the things that, actually, I would say one of the common operational errors that I saw when listening to Drew, for one, using a trigger to justify abhorrent behavior or dismissal of other people's thoughts. Like, I get how that happens because I have my triggers and I have things that set those automatic thought processes that I was talking earlier, that I stop listening to engage and I start listening to shut the fuck down. But what I wanted to circle back to specifically before all that shit went sideways, it was interesting last week for What You Got to Say with the safe space when Cabana was dialoguing about safe spaces and men. And one of the things that is so important in this conversation is that we all find those safe spaces to exist, whether we are Black, trans, gay, bisexual, Ku Klux Klan, like, people are going to migrate to the microcosm that gives them the feeling of support. And unfortunately, much like with other situations that are like that, when all you do is surround yourself by like-minded people, you create an echo chamber that reinforces things like negative stereotypes. And it absolves you of things like moral responsibility to evaluate a situation. And, you know, I know for me, it's interesting because I look at Drew and his reactions in the last few minutes, and I think my physical body language was telling and how I felt about that. But I get how that happens, and I'm just very fortunate enough that I had people who support while holding me accountable. And I think that's the big thing in these conversations that, you know, we talked about the politics of oppression, and before that we went live, I had mentioned it is very easy for the tools of the oppressor to be used by the oppressed when it's comfortable. And it is very difficult to separate that because we feel a sick sense of justification. It's a petty ass behavior. Like, don't get me wrong, like there's times like my Facebook post last week that set off a shitstorm in my life. I was being petty as hell. But let me tell you, in that moment, I got that delayed gratification. Then I had to deal with the consequences of that shit.
Right.
And pick up those pieces and do that. And one of the most difficult parts that we have discussed in this, so we talked about the struggle of being Black in America or a person of color in anything. We did ignore, for one, we have our common, you know, when people say it like, oh, Black, Latino, let's not forget the Asian Americans right now because they're being targeted and persecuted right now.
This is true.
The fact that Black gays and gays in general, so as a white gay dude, specifically to that demographic, a cisgendered white dude, I didn't realize how spoiled and privileged my ass was. Even though I was still being discriminated and oppressed against, I did not fall under, quote unquote, the lower tier. I was not a transsexual. I was not a transvestite. I was not at the time a lesbian. Don't kill me, Tiffany. But like, it's interesting how those hierarchies of discrimination work our way into our culture, the very culture that we're trying to defend and promote and establish and build. And then it all kind of circles back to this concept that, you know, for one, as gay men specifically, because that's what I can speak to. I can't speak to the lesbian aspect of that, though I do like Subarus and Home Depot. So it is unique to me that in taking what I have learned, because I grew up overseas, so I never lived in America. And actually the hardest time for me as a gay man was when I did move back to America, because I was really forced to confront negative behaviors that I didn't realize had become embedded in my perception. It was very easy to fall into racist terminology. It was very easy, instead of looking at myself, which is not to say that everybody's experience needs to do this, but it wasn't these people that I was mad at. It was myself and my insecurities that were speaking out. So I was latching onto them and projecting my shit onto their community, and not even having the mental awareness to acknowledge that. And so one of the things that I've had to work on, specifically to bring it back to Drewry's part before everything got a little heated, when there is a type of person, and I'll use the white knight allegory again, it is not my job to stand in front of you. It is my job to stand beside you.
Come on.
I'm not paving the way for you anymore. That is not my power. That is not my ability. And that is not my role. My job is to be the best person I can and walk this journey with you and be needed when needed and be quiet when not.
That's awesome. It's interesting.
That's my piece.
That's
Tiff,
interesting. Yeah.
you've been really quiet, and I've seen a whole lot of head shakes and all that. What's your take on not just look, we're far beyond the question that I asked, but everything.
Well, my take on everything is this. I'm not just in one bubble. My bubbles overlap. Kind of like what Cabana said. I am Black and I'm gay. And then you have another bubble. I am a lesbian. Then you have another bubble. I'm not a lipstick lesbian. I am more of the manly, I guess people would say, lesbian, even though I'm not. I'm really a big old Twinkie. I'm real soft in the middle. But because of those things, I can't hide any of those things. Okay, so when I am in public or if I walk down the street, first of all, you see this. I'm Black. I can't hide that. Secondly, you see I'm a woman. Thirdly, by the way that I present myself, the way that I dress, you assume, and your assumption is correct, that I am a lesbian. I am a stud, more on the masculine end of it. And because of those things, people tend to judge just off sight alone. No, they do not know that I don't have 3, Candice. I got 2 though. I got 2 degrees. One is a classically trained saxophonist. Looking at me, you don't know that. You don't know what my life experiences have been. So in my 48 years of life, I've had to understand that. I've had to understand that people are going to judge you basically based upon your appearance. Mm-hmm. Now, once people get to know me, they see a whole different thing. A whole new world opens up. And they tend to, right, you know what I'm saying? And they tend to know, oh, you're intelligent. Oh, you're funny. Oh, you're well versed on XYZ, all these things. And that brings me to this point. People have to learn how to respond instead of reacting. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you hear something that you don't like, it's human nature. I get it, to be like, rah. But sometimes that is sparked by conviction. If you feel convicted by something, you immediately want to attack it. Not saying that your conviction is, oh yeah, that is me entirely. It's just, well, maybe a little bit piece of that might cause you to want to react the way you did instead of listening and going, and then responding. So that's where I'm coming from in this whole thing. I've lived a lot of life. A lot of it has happened in the past 365 days. Amen. For those of you who know my story. Yeah. A lot. Okay. So instead of having to react to those things, I must learn how to, and all of us learn how to respond. Regarding triggers, we all have them. Yeah. All of us. And it could be the smallest thing. I have a friend of mine, you touch her on the small of her back and boom, she's gone to a very horrible place in her life. So this is what we have to learn how to do. Yes, we can acknowledge triggers, but what we need to do is learn how to respond to our triggers so that this thing that happened right now, that wasn't cool at all.
Yeah, like I didn't, and that's where I'm at. Yeah, I'm real quick. I'm gonna apologize. Like I didn't, because that's like the last thing I ever like. Because I know these are heated debates, and I'm seriously like I'm the asshole. Like you're not supposed to talk certain things. You're not supposed to talk about in public or in a mixed company, right? Race, politics, religion, and sex and gender, right? Those are my 4 fucking favorite topics.
Yeah, right. I kind of hate that part. Like, why can't we do that?
Right.
Exactly. Why can't we fucking, like, I want to talk about
some old school shit that we don't need.
Like, the look you just got, and, like, I'm standing right here, but I'm doing shadier shit than you, but you're darker, so you get fucking weird look. Like, fuck you.
Right.
Like, you know.
No,
like,
you get arrested because you're darker than me. That's,
exactly. That's the shit. Like, okay, well, just to give a little background, like, okay,
Hold on.
Because, like, I
Don't
mean-
go on a tangent. We got 2 more people. Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't wait for Kela.
Because I only see like 4 people right here. So like,
Tyrone, no, we got 8
Go
people.
ahead and swipe. You'll
All
see
right,
right.
Tyrone, Greggory, you got anything on the subject that we've been discussing so far?
I've been listening to everything, but guess what? I don't even remember what your original question was anymore. I'm just gonna be all the way
Basically, in general, it was about the comparison and contrast of the different oppressions that African American and LGBTQ community are going through. So we've gotten kind of past the is it a competition, because it's really not, but we're kind of like just kind of talking about, I guess more so the differences and similarities and the way it's handled or portrayed through history is kind of where we've moved to.
I can't speak on all of it. I mean, 1, I'm a straight male. 2, I'm a Black male. So those 2 sides I can't even say that about. Now, me personally, when I just look at the whole situation as a whole, I just think it all boils down to ignorance on top of ignorance. Period.
Yeah.
And it's just like any other situation. If you are prejudging something before you do any kind of research to understand it, you will always sound ignorant. It's like 2 fools arguing from a distance. You can't tell which one the fool.
Come
True.
on, Lyric. Come on.
Okay, Jay.
oh,
True.
But I mean, I just look at the way this conversation is running right now, and I mean, we all got to give each other. Well, I'm not saying we all do. I'm just trying not to be a nitpicker, but at the end of the day, we have to pay attention and listen, because this is still to educate the masses as well as our own asses.
Right. I like that. Educate your asses as well as the masses. I like that.
That's
Miss
a t-shirt.
On a shirt.
Yeah, that's a shirt.
Boom.
Y'all crazy. That's all that.
Come on, Miss Kela.
So one thing I do want to say, I want to stick up for Drewry right now, because I saw exactly how that went down. And I know that, you guys think that it was like maybe he was popping off a little bit, but I saw how it happened. And I think when he explained how he interacts at other activist type of situations, that's what he was doing. And then Cabana, like you were in your flow. And so then you said something that definitely was directed towards that. And so that's why the fight happened. I think it's a little unfair to say that he necessarily was like reacting and not listening. I think he was listening. He was just, saying, hey, I have a point for that particular point that Cabana was sitting on. You like, y'all, I don't know, I'm really shocked because everybody is very passionate. I'm not used to this much passion on throughout the entire show. And so, yeah, one thing I wrote down was, what I realize is that when we are interacting with people and we're speaking to people and they're like whatever they have going on with themselves, we all have some type of intersectionality with all of the things that, colonization needs in order to flourish. And so it needs people to separate themselves according to class. It needs people to separate themselves according to the differences so that there is a hierarchy and they can kind of, they can control their society in that way, because then society controls itself. Like, you better not be going too far out of here. Like, you're Black, you better not do so much. Or even the story is you have to work twice as hard to become an employee. You know what I mean? Not necessarily to become an entrepreneur. These are the things of the past, and the tools. And so we have to remember that when we're speaking to people in public, especially ones that we don't know, we are running into people who may not be being their authentic selves, which is a huge part to being able to see things from somebody else's point of view, because you understand that you have a unique story. And so somebody else must have a unique story. You're running up against that person who they might be going through shit that day. They might, they are armed with the words of their parents and the people who raised them. And so they're filtering out their reality through that lens. And then also ignorance. because we don't know, we don't even use our full brains.
Nope.
Like, we don't, you know, and so when things are going to be misunderstood, things are going to be, you know, get heated and all that stuff. But I think it's time that our generation perhaps starts to get into humans, like, and start speaking to people at a human level. We are just reacting to all the shit that came before us, like what people were doing like before we even got here. We have to like deal with those consequences, which is unfair. But the more that we understand that, the more that we know that we didn't get here by accident, that we don't have these biases by accident, it was designed to be that way. I think we can then start speaking to people more on a human level, because we understand that, look, you are conditioned just as much as I am conditioned. And so let's break that fucking conditioning and just talk to each other as people. And this is your character. And if I'm gonna hate you, then I'm gonna hate you because of your fucking character. I'm gonna hate you because you are an evil person. I'm going to not like you because you are actually just not somebody, you're doing harm to people, not because you look a certain way. And my mama told me that I can't like people like you, and because her mama told her, and because.
Right.
I think it's time that we start speaking to each other like that, appreciating everybody's culture. Now, side note, Black people, I'm talking to y'all, we can do whatever we want for real, you know what I'm saying, when it's us. Like, we can talk about, we have a lot of things to unfold, you know what I'm saying, like within our community, I feel like. And so we can still discuss how we can become whole, how, you know, but I think when it comes to the greater society and us interacting with one another, because things are just going to become more diverse. That's just it. Right. More diverse. We should just, you know, start looking at each other as humans and dealing with each other on the basis of who are you and who am I?
I like that. That's very well said. That's very well said. Yeah.
So well, not respond to her, but just to kind of piggyback on what she was saying on treating people human. I think what some people do is you kind of discredit what someone else has gone through, which diminishes in your own mind their value.
Absolutely.
So in doing that, it's that age old, you can't talk about race, religion, gender, politics. That's why we're in this situation right now, because nobody talked about it. These are things you can't talk about in public. Well, look at where the fuck we are right now. Nobody knows how to talk about it because it's a touchy subject and nobody wants to touch it. No, we need to all expand on our own thinking and get out of that box thinking that we've all been conditioned to stay inside of. Don't color outside the lines. No, if I'm going to make this masterpiece, I will splatter paint everywhere. And so I'm going to talk to everybody. And just like Cabana said, he had a conversation with people who aren't like him. So in order for you to get a better understanding, you have to talk to different people. You have to get a deeper understanding. And the only way to do that is to find people who don't think like you. And sometimes they may or may not look like you. Just because somebody does look like you doesn't mean they think like you. So there's Black Republicans, there's Black independents, there's Black Democrats, there's Black atheists, there's Black Christians, there's Black evangelicals. So it doesn't matter, but talk to somebody different. That allows you to expound on your thinking and get a different understanding of everybody out there, because the world is made up of so many different people, so many different genders, so many different colors, and everything else is in the world. If you want to continue to think of inside that little box and that's where you're going to stay, that's fine. Stay over there in the little 90-degree corner and hang out over there by yourself. But everybody else in the rest of the world, we're going to continue to progress and move forward. In order to do that, we have to talk about those touchy subjects.
And that's why we have What You Got to Say. Okay, so I think, Drury, did you have your hand up or did she bless?
Yeah, just real quick. Like, yeah, that totally took a weird fucking turn there. And Cabana, definitely, that wasn't like I said, it was just a trigger for me, because you gotta understand, in my protesting days, I had to stop because PTSD, I lost teeth in the last one. That was, cop beat my camera in my face because I was filming them.
Hold on, he did what?
Beat my camera in my face. Oh yeah, no, okay, real quick. I have white privilege. I fight cops. So
I'm glad you know.
That is how I would use my white privilege. Like
that's how I feel about it. If I'm privileged to get away with this shit, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, my boy can't. But yeah, I'll smack the cop. Like I don't like. Well, in the situation, I'm just gonna walk up and smack the cop. But you know, if I'm in a like, okay, what happened was DC. It wasn't even anything like weird. It was like the deficit, March about the deficit. The reason I got into photography was the oh crap. Sorry, was the imagery that came out of the like Vietnam era and civil rights era, and because I felt the imagery, like Time magazine, like Tiananmen Square, where the guy said that really helped push the human rights movement further, because it wasn't just hearing stories of, you know, them uppity Negroes in Alabama. You were seeing men and women and children being sprayed with fire hoses and chewed on. And I mean, that's why having a cell phone that you can record shit with is so important today, because it puts it in people's face. We have the conversation. Right. We can say these damn things. So anyway, so I'm there, and you know, so DC, you know, bumper to bumper traffic, any busy city, bumper to bumper cars. So crossing the street, and then people were crossing, and then cops, like a dozen cops come out of nowhere. Like I said, it wasn't even a rowdy protest. We just stood there, and you know, I filmed while people yelled at Congress about the deficit. So we're crossing, and I say the comment while I'm filming, and I'm like, look, they're actually only beating the people of color. Imagine that. And the lieutenant turned to me and got mad. I've been to protest. My camera stays on a wrist strap. So people, I mean, shit, I don't even have to go to a protest. I can just be walking around the city, and somebody will try and take, you know, be like, don't throw me, and take my camera. So yeah, like, and so he couldn't get it off my hand, so he started beating it in my face. Couldn't take it to court because I knocked him out. So that's, but well, okay.
Allegedly.
I'm taking martial arts.
Allegedly.
I'm taking martial arts. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I couldn't take it to court. I wouldn't be sued. And I mean, the ACLU has all my footage. Hopefully they did something about it. But like, you know, so that's kind of part of my background too. So it's not like, because when you talk about the topic of ignorance, like that's the thing that I've also found to do is not assume other people's ignorance. Like that's a big thing within, like, you know, racist, especially racist white people, you know, is racist white people will sit there and assume that people of color are ignorant. And that aggravates the fuck out of me. I'm like, that motherfucker's smarter than you, and why are you talking to them like they're privileged to have a fucking education? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like that somehow you're entitled to, you know, the fact that you contributed to them getting an education. No, fuck you. I have the right to be intelligent. Like that's not something you should have. That's my personal autonomy, is my ability to absorb knowledge and then apply it when necessary.
Got you.
You know what I mean?
So I have a comment from some people that are watching, and then I saw your hand, Shane, and then I got a caveat question that you mentioned and that he was getting ready to bring up that I want to touch. But Lance Lannon, hey Lance, how y'all doing? How you doing? So Lance says it is unfortunate that a lot of people are raised in communities where there has been bad tendencies towards color or even sexual preferences. It is hard to break those mentalities later on due to the fact that it's all they have known. With people like you guys reaching out for the greater good of the people, regardless of color, sexual preference, or religion, I have found that people can change. However, it takes the right people with the right mindset to guide them, especially the younger generations. My kids are so confused on what is right and wrong. It is a struggle to inform them on what is going on in the world, because they don't understand where we came from. I am teaching them one thing, and others, like our educational system, are teaching them the exact opposite. So it is confusing. to them. So the main thing I preach is to do good by people instead of looking for ways to degrade them. We need to build each other up rather than knock them down for their flaws. Great insight, Lance.
Awesome.
Okay, I have a question. Came off of a comment that I saw, and then it was getting ready to be brought up again here. And I wanted to see if this is kind of what Shane was saying in one of his statements. In your last statement, you were saying, you started talking about the use of homophobic and racial slurs, right? And you were saying you had questions, you had issues, whatever, in reference to that. And then you realized that instead of listening to understand, I don't know if it was necessarily the history or the meaning behind the words that were being used, you were angry that you couldn't use them and projecting your insecurities onto whatever group. I wrote it down, or maybe I said, yeah, you said it. You did. Maybe I'm mixing two things. I wrote it down because I thought it led into what I was getting ready to ask.
So I will say, anecdotally, from my experience, words like faggot, the N-word, queen, queer, it's an interesting dynamic because some of those words are physically uncomfortable for me to hear for various reasons. It's different when somebody's like, yeah, it's queen, or this faggot over here. Like there shouldn't be, but there's a differentiation between who uses that word, which I think is a very common argument for the N-word as well.
Right.
But you got me sidestepping here.
No, it's okay. No, it wasn't for you to sidestep because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. This is exactly it.
No, for one, I think that it ties in directly to what Ms. Kela and Ms. Candice had mentioned earlier, and certainly what Lance mentioned, is that there is a separation in our country between generational identity, politics, and social identity. And I think social identity has a lot of complicated things with it. And one of the things that we have circled around, when you look to how colonial America was established, and basically any white colonial economy in the world, whether that be in Africa, India, or anything like that, religion is a very powerful tool that is used to reinforce certain public standards, to demean the local individual. And that's often one of the things. So unbeknownst to many people, when I was graduating high school, I was going up to seminary. That was my goal. I was going to be a priest in the Catholic Church.
Right.
And anybody that knows me now is like, bitch, what? And it took the church turning its tools against me for me to really realize what I had been indoctrinated into. And that started a long period of time that I had a problem with all churches, not just, it wasn't the Church of God that I had. I didn't even realize there was a differentiation between the Church of God and the Church of Man. We are all victims of the Church of Man, but God has a different plan for us. I firmly believe in that.
Right.
And when we talk about how difficult it is to make these sweeping changes, I think one of the things we have to acknowledge is that there's a generational difference in information accessibility. Politics is so much more, politics has always been looped into how we lived our lives. We just weren't aware of it.
Right.
I think there was a generation, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I would say many people in my father's generation had the luxury of not having to pay attention to politics and still reap the benefits of what it was doing for them, versus my personal generation, where I was on that cusp where there weren't a lot of gay people, there weren't a lot of role models. And I do struggle sometimes with these young kids. I find myself a little jealous, where I'm like, damn, I wish I had it that easy. You don't know what you got, but I wish, but they do. And in dismissing their anger, their righteous anger, and dismissing them, I'm not doing any favors to my community. And I'm certainly not pushing myself to develop any further in my understanding. And close my thought process, the whole concept that there is an entire generation of people that cannot have these conversations at the table because they were never taught to. And so it always devolves into a fight.
Right.
Always, not even a discussion. It's a fucking fight, and I hate it. And I geared up because so the military community that I was raised around was very difficult as a gay man. When I was working at the youth center, I got several complaints for just existing. How dare this gay man teach my kid? How dare this gay man be left alone to supervise my kid because he's gonna fuck him up? Or how dare this gay man encourage my kid, who is, by the way, coming out as trans or LGBT? No, that's what the pastors are for. Well, I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. And I'm just living my life, sorry. And if living my life gives a better example, which I'm grateful to hear because that means they saw the better side of me in that moment, I know that I'm fully capable of falling and not having that better side.
Right.
And so the usage of words and terminologies, those are all things I think when we come
before we get there, don't go there yet. Don't go there yet. I have a question for the whole panel. Well, yes, I have two questions. They're not the answer I want is that or that with no explanation. Either this or it's that. Well, you'll be able to explain later, but I just want to hear it's this or it's that. Which word is more offensive to you? The F word or the N word? Which one is more offensive? You have to say either one. Think about it. If you already know the answer, say, but just this or that with no explanation.
The N word.
Shane.
The N word, absolutely. There's way more history of repression to it.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
both. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I mean,
okay.
I'm really with him. Both, but she's asking for an A and B. We're not getting a C in this conversation. No, I would pick C. But
directions. You're not following directions. I'm gonna let
you know, but I get what you're saying. But this
I'm gonna let you do all of this. I'm gonna let you do all of it. I'm trying to do something. This is why
you're trying to prove something that's not for me. And
if your answer is both, it's fine. Your answer can be both.
Right.
Candice, F or N?
Does it matter who's saying it?
F or N?
Before I choose?
F or N?
F.
Okay. Tiff, F or N?
That's hard.
I know this is meant to be hard.
Right. I would say F.
Okay. Tyrone, F or N?
N, nigga.
Okay. Kela, F or N?
I can't speak to F, so I can only say N. I can only speak.
Okay. Drury, F or N? I know.
I mean, I'm going to twist the T, whether you say either in a derogatory manner.
Okay. So yours is also.
You know what I mean? Like, I literally,
No explanation. So yours is also both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Like not even.
So my next question is this. Which culture uses regardless of which one is more derogatory for you, which culture do you feel uses these derogatory terms more often? Black or white? I know it's difficult questions. I'm asking for a reason.
I would say
Who
for
uses
me,
these derogatory terms more, do you think?
So for me, the N word comes from, when used negatively, I would say, it definitely comes from the white culture of America. And unfortunately, the opposite is true for the F word for me. I have heard the F word used more both in popular media culture, in reference and just in confrontations that I have been. So like, it's interesting because like, I remember the one time I was trying to get into one of the clubs in Germany and I had just come from the gay bar and it was I think it was the Markthalle. And things were about to get bumped, but it was like the after party and they were like, well, who's gonna let this Caucasian get in here? Like, who's gonna let the cracker faggot in here? Like, we don't need that. Like, no, you don't come here. This ain't for you. This is a Black space. You need to go.
So you feel N is more from N is more
derogatory from one side, and certainly used to
Okay.
denigrate and disenfranchise from one side, and the F word, I get that from the other
Okay.
frame of reference.
Cabana, thoughts? Same question. Who do you feel utilizes it, either or of them more? Either or. You want me to come back to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Tyrone?
White.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Both terms?
Yeah.
Okay. Tiff, thoughts?
This is completely out of context for me. I would say negatively, it would definitely be our Caucasian brethren.
That use the F word or the N word negatively more, or the F word, or both?
The N word. Regarding the F word, I really don't like. Gay people would be like, bitch, or whatever else. We don't call each other faggots, man, because you get punched in the face. It doesn't matter who you are. So I think people outside of the LGBTQ community would use faggot more than within it. And the N word, people outside of that community, negative. When I'm just only speaking negatively. Outside of that would be outside of the African American community.
Okay.
Negatively.
Candice?
I think as far as negative connotations are concerned, Black people use the F word more negatively, no matter who they're speaking to, whether it's people who look like them or people who don't look like them. So, you know, no matter what their race is, I think Black people use the F word more negatively than anyone else. As far as the N word is concerned, in a negative connotation, I would say that would be our Caucasian family. Because I would say the majority of the time when Black people use the N word, it's a sentence enhancer or a sentence filler, or it's in a welcoming term, or just thing to, you know, laugh about or whatnot, not in a way to purposely be derogatory or to make someone feel less than. When it's coming at us from another race, it's definitely in a negative connotation, because other than that, they wouldn't use it. Even when people who are different races aren't around us and they're using it, 9 times out of 10, it's in a negative connotation. It's not to be, you know, welcoming or uplifting in any point. Not saying terms uplifting, but just saying that would be more so negatively coming from white people than Blacks.
Okay. Kela, thought?
Mm.
Don't know. Okay.
White people don't say nigga around me, so I don't know. They also, you know, don't say the F word, so I would not know.
Okay. Drury?
I would basically pretty much agree that white people use the N-word. I mean, like, just like there's no comparison to any other demographic than like white dudes using the N-word. Like, even white women is nowhere near the number of white dudes that use the N-word negatively.
Okay.
And then, but as far as the F word, my own personal experience, I mean, we have to understand, I've been out since I was 5. I am pansexual at this point, and well, I mean, I've always been, but because I never hit it. And I went to a predominantly African-American elementary and high school. I mean, you went to Hampton.
Yep.
You know, and when I went there, it was almost, we were three quarters of it was, you know, not Lincoln Park, but Pine Chapel, which is lower income housing. And so I think there's a big thing, like we were talking about the ignorance and what we teach our communities. And then like, and so And what I saw, and that gave me the unique perspective we were talking about earlier, is at school, I was with a hard R, because I was the racial minority. There was like 2, 3 white kids in my grade level most of my way through elementary. And then, you know, middle school was a little different. And then high school was still, you know, predominantly not my race.
Correct.
So I've seen it where it's you know, retaliatory racism. And I don't see it any different. Like, you're treating me, you're looking at me down the hallway, stank guy. Anytime something's stolen, it's one of the white kids. Anytime, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then of course, almost everywhere that I've worked, I've been the racial minority or the sexual minority. So I mean, I've been told to my face I won't be promoted because I'm cracker. There's been people that won't even learn because I'm a cracker or a honky or whatever, or that I'm just a white dude. I was like, sorry, we only promote people of color. You know, I mean, but the thing is, it's like when I worked at Red Lobster, I was the only white boy that could keep longer than 6 months because I've been through it. Like, I can talk shit back. Like, you know, I can read the letter from Birmingham jail to your face. So I'm not a cracker. I know some shit. You know what I mean? Right. Like I'm not. That's the thing. Is like, so especially the burden of, when it comes to the race issue, the burden on white people to show that they're educated in the fact that this shit's fucked up.
Right.
And we know the history from the true history and not what was fucking told to us in school. You know, to make our oppressors, everyone's oppressors, fucking, you know. So, but I saw it from a different perspective because I mean, I grew up mostly like. I can tell you, I feel awkward in a room full of nothing but white people. And it freaks me out. I know one of these ignorant motherfuckers is gonna pop off, and I just don't do it. And you were talking about white knight syndrome. To me, it's not white knight syndrome. It's that I've always had that injustice is a threat to justice everywhere concept. Even before I heard the quote from Dr. King. Like, so because the way in which I've seen it. So that's what we were talking about with like personal experience. And so in my personal experiences, yes, by no other record, African-American people are, the culture is due to buck breaking, which we
and that's where I was going. That's where I was
homosexuality was weaponized in the African-American communities but in, you know, we all know the results of that, but it created an identity crisis that especially amongst, like, I'm sure that like he was talking earlier, the intersectionality of him being gay and Black. You know what I mean?
I want to throw something at you guys really quick, an answer that somebody gave, and I thought this was awesome. When I asked the question, who uses the F word or N word more negatively or whatever, you know what somebody said from outside of our country? Americans.
They're correct.
Americans, period. Not Black, not white, not Americans. So my purpose for asking that about the F word and the N word is that there was a conversation that I was reading where they were saying that, you know, the African-American, well, I know we've had this conversation on this show before. The African-American community is less receptive to the LGBTQ community. Doesn't mean that LGBTQs don't exist in the Black community. They were just less receptive. And so we started kind of talking and digging as to why do we feel that is less receptive, and people started talking about experiences that they've had within their own community, and even being not Black and being outside of the community, and what they've experienced from the Black community as an LGBTQ individual. And it kind of, some of the statements they made really made me take a deep dive into, I'm going to say something as simple as my very first love and soul, hip hop. It made me take a really deep dive into the lyrics of hip hop. Y'all already know I can almost recite every hip hop song from maybe 1989 to 2020. I probably know all of them back and forth, and the ad libs and the little in betweens on every album. That's how much of a fan that I am. But when we had this conversation, I started to think about how many people throughout my life I have consistently heard use the negative terminology for the LGBTQ community. And some people just weren't. I feel I was fortunate enough to break out of that cycle. I wasn't brainwashed by what I heard, but all of the people who were not as fortunate to not be brainwashed from what they're hearing, not just from hip hop, I'm just using that as an example, but from what their parents, what your uncle told you about LGBTQ people, your aunts, your grandparents. And it's like now when I hear these same songs, I cringe. I cringe now because now I'm like, you just called this dude a F word because his Timberlands was pink. What? This doesn't make sense. And so now I see myself hollering and fussing at people online when I got you, Shane, because I know you're about to dip out. I got into a long ass argument in a hip hop freestyling wilding group because they showed a picture, old picture, LL Cool J and Jay-Z hugged up like brothers. And over 50% of the comments was some sort of homophobic statement. And I was like, y'all need a hug. Because last time I checked, just because I hugged Kela does not mean I slobbed her down all types of ways yesterday.
Depends on how tight you hold me, you know what I'm saying?
My sister.
Right.
What'd you say? Did you say what? Wait a minute, what? What did you say?
I said it depends on how tight you hold me. You know?
So I started to take what that conversation was to heart and really started paying attention to what I'm hearing and so on. Shane, I know you got to go, but go ahead. I saw you. Go ahead.
So let me just ride off of what you started talking about, because it evolves into, like, I think, we have passive prejudice, passive racism, and active. And I think your illustration of hip hop or just music lyrics in general is a wonderful way to frame that. Like, there have been many times that I have asked my husband, I'm like, I don't like that song. And he'll be like, what, why? And I'm like, did you not listen to it? Like, that is problematic in how it, especially because my husband loves 90s R&B. Like the deepest doo-wop shit that you can find, he has it and it's downloaded and he knows it by heart and he can sing it.
Right.
That is his thing. I have no idea where the hell he picked it up in the middle of Dallas, Texas. I could not tell you.
I can tell you.
But it was unique to me because I think that parallels, when we are mindful about a situation, we pick up a lot more. And that's actually, I think, the biggest catalyst for my personal growth was when I started seeking therapy. And the first thing my therapist said was, I'm going to teach you how to be mindful in this moment.
Yeah.
And then that translates to other things. And I think when you're highlighting racial sensitivity, the politics of oppression, which there is a politics of oppression, it is interesting to me that how many people are passively racist or passively discriminatory towards a different minority group because they might not have been exposed to them, which is more likely than not. One of the things that came up last week with Tyrone and Cabana in the group was, I was the opposite. I didn't know how to have straight friends for the longest time because I didn't know how to process my life in a way that was palatable for them. And I struggled with that for a long time until I really was stripped of any gay community and I had to find my own way, especially when I got back into the military community. The first thing that I found myself succeeding in, or when I started finding success in building those communities and those networks, was just being more mindful of my experience and what I'm hearing and what I'm saying. And, like with Drew earlier, before Kela came in and checked us a little bit, like, I was no longer listening to what you were saying. I was listening to how you were saying it, which was telling me, which was giving me all this noise and feedback to not parse out what you were trying to get to, because I didn't have the patience for how you were speaking it. And I think that's, if you know, I'm out of here in 5 minutes. Unfortunately, I could spend hours on this, but I think in looking into ourselves, there is a great amount of impact that we can place on this within our own lives. And I think that's the biggest sense of responsibility I cannot control how people perceive me, but I can control how I perceive their interactions with me. That's the one thing I can do. I can't stop somebody from using the F word. I can't stop somebody from using the N word. You know, I can choose not to be around them in the future, but at the end of the day, the one thing I can monitor, the one true thing I have power over is myself. And it is up to me to exercise that power and to be aware in that moment. And I think so much of this conversation, if we oversimplify it into that,
right,
it's exposure. And I won't say education in the confines of America, because I think we have a truly fucked education system across the board. And I think that in writing in with last week too, getting rid of toxic trait personalities being justified as boys will be boys, or that's just, and I'm going to speak outside of my lane here, so just bear with me. I'm not trying to say this is my thing, but just saying like, well, that's just the hood culture, or that's country, or that's just how rednecks are, or that's just how, you know, evangelical Christians are. Like, no, you're shifting the responsibility for yourself for confronting that behavior when you hear it, because it is all of our responsibilities to hold that mirror up. But we can't do that with stable ground if we're not doing it for ourselves.
Yeah.
It makes us all hypocrites.
Yes.
So that's my last piece. Cabana.
Shane, I know you gotta go. I so appreciate you joining us today.
Let me just say what's been on my heart since the day I met him. Cabana, you.
I love you. I wish you could see me. Like I'm not real right now. I'm still pissed, but I wish I could say what I want to say. But I appreciate
Death to Mindless Music. It's a great album. Oh shit! My final point. Go do everybody a favor. Look up Ani DeFranco's "Revolutionary Love." There is a sentence that I have taken as a personal mantra. It is, I will tend my anger and I will tend my grief. And I will decide when I am ready to forgive, but not forget.
Come on.
That is my lesson in all of this.
I
love you all. Respect.
We
love you,
so much.
Shane. Love you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Shane. Okay, who else? Let's go.
I don't even remember what your original question was.
Me
It
neither.
wasn't really a question. I think Shane kind of summed it up for me. But he summed it up for me. I was just talking about our different races and how we react to the LGBTQ community, or what's really happening versus maybe what's stereotyped happening, and who are you getting it from because of what we've talked about in the past, and then what we've seen and heard. You know, Tiff hasn't said much. Let me do Tiff, and then I got you, Drury. Got you? All right.
I think a lot of it comes from all of it is learned activity, and most of it is learned unfortunately with religion, and not necessarily relationship, because there's a difference.
Yep.
It's religion as opposed to relationship. Religion is just mantras spoken over and over again. My grandmama told me this, her grandmama told me that, so that's how I'm gonna think. If they said it, then that's what it is. Amen.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Rather than taking time to study for yourself.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's where a lot of it comes from. It's because I know with people that I have encountered, and they may speak ill about someone who is gay, and I'm like, well, you love me and I'm gay. You're just Tiff, and Tiff is gay. Let's not get it effed up. That is one of the things that I am. You know what I'm saying? So if you can find it in your heart to honestly love me, why can't you do the same for this other person? They are no different than I am. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of it begins with religion and what we're taught when we go to Sunday school, and Sodom, everybody uses Sodom and Gomorrah, and, you know, all these other things. And it's just, it's unfortunate, you know, but that's where a lot of it comes from, regarding why people feel the way they feel about that particular community. That's it.
Okay, go ahead, Drury, and then I'm going to do some comments from the audience because we have a lot of comments. One that probably needs to be a whole other show, but we got some good comments here.
Okay, well, one of the, trying to think, there's a specific point I wanted to make, but I think it passed. Okay, so, I mean, kind of going back to, I think, like, I like what Tiffany just said, like, and it again, it goes back to exposure. What have you been exposed to? Like, have you been around a lot of gay people? Maybe you just have some, like, because I mean, I know a lot of gay people that don't understand the levels of how we're oppressed, like in the judicial system. Like, sodomy laws are specifically put in there to criminalize gay men. Of course, Black gay men are more discriminated, but it's mostly gay men that are targeted by that. But yeah, of course, if you have a double negative against you, you're Black, so the institution's already set up to throw you in jail, and then you're also gay, and you can be charged with sodomy laws when they can't find other shit to charge you with. Yeah, that's gonna exponentiate, like, your probability of getting in there. So, but the thing is, I think that there comes a time where everybody has to check themselves and see whether they're looking at their own oppression as a form of superiority. Because that's what I see often in the KKK movement and Proud Boys, is what they see is what they view as their oppression becomes their superiority.
What they view as their oppression becomes
like that Jews and Blacks are oppressing them and taking things from them.
Okay, I got you.
You know, they flip that around. That's what fuels their supremacy, that hatred. Because, and like I said, back to my history, that goes down to, with my history, I have a unique story. I'm not, I'm not a rural white boy. I'm not a city white boy. Like, I mean, I'm not a wigger, but I'm kind of hood. Like, I mean, like, really, like, so, I mean, I've never, I mean, as a kid, we were just above the poverty line. I've never in my adult life lived over the poverty line. Like, class, like, economic class does have something to do with it, because it does put a similarity between other cultures. Like, poor Black people and poor white people probably have more in common than you or I have with Jay-Z at this point in life. Not back then, but, like, and he's been through it. But you have to understand, people who have never, even white people that have never come out of that trap, but lived in similar communities, are going to act the same way. They're going to get involved in the same things. And it's necessary for survival. And so you can either come together and survive together, or divide and conquer, like, and so, and part of that is you have to, you might be gay and Black and trans, but you have to check some of that to the point that you're not feeling, because you're so stacked, you're oppressively superior, because that leads to supremacist knowledge, supremacist mindset. Because, and I understand it's a weird thing, because a lot of people don't think about, where does the concept of supremacy come from, or the need to control someone else. It's a form of—
What'd you say, Kela?
I said it came from the 1700s. Like, they created it. It's on purpose. All of it by design.
It's been, I mean, in this country, yes. It's like, I mean, but
I'm talking about around the world, when they started to, figure out a way to make slavery according to your skin color. When they started to speak about darker skinned people as the enemy, as the ones that we can oppress, and then use religion to make that, put the stamp on it. And so there is a reason why everybody continues to feel this way, because we have not been able to afford the therapy that is necessary, the therapy and the education that is necessary to snap out of that shit. You have to be snapped out of it. It is not something that you can do on your own and that somehow manifests itself. It doesn't do that. You can live your whole life ignorant to the reality of the world and the reality of what the actual design is. And so, you know, it started in a place. It didn't just come out of nowhere, and it didn't just start happening in 1995.
Facts.
Candice had her hand. Hold on. Go ahead, Candice.
Two things. One, to kind of finish what Drury was saying, saying that poor Black people and poor white people kind of have more in common than not. That's kind of along the lines what we were discussing, the political climate, where you have so many poor white people who were in these rural communities and were voting Republican, or they were, you know, who are 45 supporters, but they weren't looking at the fact that you're voting against your own interests, because some people in that area literally think, you can have colored glasses on or whatever you want to call it, but they literally think they have more in common with him, 45, than they do with someone else who lives in that particular, than a Black person who lives in the same type of situation that they're living in, whether it's a trailer park or whether you're in, you know, affordable housing or whatever it is. Like, they really think they have more in common with him than they do with someone else who's Black, who's living in the exact same situation, who has the exact same type of income, who's having the exact same type of problems. You got more people on welfare than you do Black people, but it's the stigma, or it's looked at as Black people are the problem, and we're the ones that are, you know, soaking up everything from the system. You got so many white people that have welfare fraud and all this type of shit, who like, y'all making $30,000, $40,000 a year. Why are you on welfare? You got people who are barely breaking 20K a year who actually need it, or those people that are just above the poverty line, like, you make enough not to get it, but you're still struggling, barely living paycheck to paycheck. So that was just back on him.
Like some of your military members, are falling into that thing. Yeah.
Right. But the point that I was trying to make to actually answer the question you were asking, or where does this kind of thought process come from? I think it comes from outside influences, as far as how people feel about the LGBT community or Black oppression or whatever. I think it comes from outside influences, religion, politics, and Hollywood, actually. Because when you hear about it in the church, it's bad. Oh, stay away from that. You know, everything is bad. Jesus, 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 and that's it. Then you look at politics, same thing. It's bad, it's shunned. You know, you shouldn't be, you can't be this type of person and work in politics. You can't have that in your history. You can't have those skeletons coming out of the closet. You have to keep that on the hush hush, or you got to pay that person off to make sure, or give them an NDA so nobody's saying anything, to make sure to secure your political future. It's still shunned. And then you have Hollywood, where they're like, bam, put that shit in your face. You know, you have, you know, some of these different shows that are having sex scenes that are gay, and people are like, okay, this is okay, because this is the same thing that I'm experiencing, or these are the same type of thoughts, or the same type of mental battle that some people are having, because they're trying to figure out, like, okay, do I come out? Can I come out? Can I trust my family? Can I trust my friends? You know, can I come out? Can I be my authentic self around you and be comfortable in doing that? And Hollywood is like, be you, boo. Do what you want to do. This is your life. Live it the way you want to. Them niggas don't keep your bed warm at night. Whoever's gonna rub the lower of your back the way you want to, or rub your warm spots. Hollywood is like, go with it. Do
your warm spot.
But you have so many other people that, you know, the powers that be that are in these large positions, they're the ones that are trying to kind of keep it down, or keep it on the hush hush, or they don't want it to be as flagrant as it is. What was it? It was somebody who released Disney. Disney was supposed to be releasing a movie of two gay guys together. Shit that hit the fan when they released that trailer. Everybody was like, oh, my kids can't watch this, and you can't put that in front of my children, and that's not a Disney, that's not family friendly. You know how many families we have
look like that
in this country? Do you know how many families we have worldwide that are not just the normal heterosexual? Like, look, if you don't feel comfortable with showing that type of stuff to your children, or it doesn't make you
show yours.
Show 'em.
don't watch it. Don't show it to your kid. But there's somebody who does want to see it. There's somebody who wants to see a pretty Black girl as a princess. There's someone who wants to see an Indian girl as a princess. There's someone who wants to see a guy as a princess. Whatever. But people are like, don't show me that. You can't, I don't want you to influence my kids and make them turn gay or whatever weird shit they say.
Right. That's funny you say that. That's funny you say that, because I also initially jumped on the bandwagon and was like, okay, cool. We have all of this representation on television with, you know, homosexual couples and so on and so forth. But I will tell you, I had a conversation with Cabana about that one day, and he opened my eyes to how sometimes the way Hollywood is putting that out there can be dangerous for maybe not the so flamboyant LGBTQ community. Cabana, can you talk on that, please?
Well, before I talk on that, because I'm real pissed, and I'm trying my best to be what I need to be, but that's the problem. I need to be exactly what I am right now.
Okay.
Because for me, this is the lane. You know, both, you know, when you asked about the question as far as like faggot or nigga,
right,
I am both of those things. I am equally those things that have happened to me. So even though and I'm saying this respectfully, it's like, of course, it's what you got to say, but sometimes it's not what people want to hear. And I felt white privilege today, dismissive. It's not about what people think, it's what I think and what I see. To be interjected and not be heard is what a Black person feels all the time. And then it pushes to the side. Then it opens the area for the debate amongst my own people, i.e., what I said very much earlier, which now has become the whole conversation, is that, you know, just like Kela said from the 1700s, sometimes we refuse to look at Black people as being the root of what oppression is, because we do not want to accept that answer, because we want to be able. And just like he's about to raise his hand again and do it again, that is the amazing part, because I've never talked like this, anybody knows me. I've never come out of my mouth, anybody knows me. But I feel like, oh, so this must be what that looks like. Because you can't really hear nobody if you're not listening. And so for me, when Kela said that, because I've been on my journey of becoming Black, I've been on my journey now of becoming a gay male, and they're both treacherous. Been spit on, beat up, kicked, disrespected, lied, fired as a teacher, you know, blamed, don't be around my kids. But what I'm trying to get my point across is, if you have to look at the root of something, and we in America, you know, we want to talk about the Jews, Asians, Indians, all that kind of stuff. But historically, who has been the slaves? Who has really been the slaves, and what has been built on the backs of those slaves, and what color and what is their culture? I am not negating what is going on, but sometimes when we try to cluster bust everything and not accept things, we refuse the truth. And the thing is, hip hop, entertainment, all this makes money. You sent the video from TED Talks. If it ain't making money, then why do it? And the reason why I said both, because Black people call me more of a nigga and a faggot than the white folks, because it's negative and positive, and it's popular. Yeah, my nigga, that's what's up, you faggot. See, I'm done with trying to be fake. I'm done trying to play these games that people play, because what y'all talking about today is what I live. I lived this all my life. I've been bullied all my life. I've been Black all my life. So for people just to walk in, trod in, and not listen in, then you're not really getting in. You're not understanding what's going on. And I respect you, bro, respectfully. But from that point on, and just listen to everybody, and everybody, you know, brought it around, and y'all said the same, you know, the same things that we talking about. But we were talking about oppression. We was talking about the LGBTQ community and Black folks. And I really didn't want to lose that focus, because that was the focus. And of course, we can piggyback on how education is and how we're supposed to do this. But I truly believe the problem that we have is that we have, not we, excuse me, because I'm Black. America has not accepted what they have done. They have not accepted nor apologized nor made the important steps to say, this is what we did. We created a situation for a culture to not only be our puppets. I'm trying not to cry because I'm passionate. Not only be our puppets, but to be our slaves, to do what we want them to do, to take our women and our men and have them be the way they're going to be. Then they have the nerve, because I'm a man of God and I'm a man of faith, but a man of God and a man of faith does not mean a man of religion, church, antics, building up titles and positions and how women are supposed to dress and how men are supposed to be and how the skirt can't be as long. I was Kojic. I know about the God of Christ, slick back bun, hair past your knees, only can wear high heels as your fantasy. I get it. But what I understand is that if we don't address truth and we don't accept truth, we ain't getting nothing done. And so for me, I was good. I heard everything, I took everything in, and I tried my best to let it go. But I was like, you can't let go of your truth. You can't let go of your truth from me. So getting to it, like we said with the movies and gay people, it goes back to, it makes money, it's popular. Because not every gay man is walking around with rainbows out of his behind. Not every gay man wearing wigs and heels, and I've done it all and still will. But at the end of the day, I'm still just a Black man that my preference is to be with a man, but it is not my lifestyle. Lifestyle means the things that I do and live and how I behave. So yes, we go through more, but the person, if I was white, if I was Asian, if I was Puerto Rican, the person that I have to acknowledge and the group of people that I have to acknowledge would be Black. Because those people were used to build something that we walk on. And when we take the time to recognize those people and bring reciprocity and really open the earth up to be equal, think about it. You think about 365 days of the year, every year since the day you were born, you've had to see Black people getting killed, period. And I'm not saying that other people's don't, but this is the problem. Well, other people's lives matter, and this matters. Everything matters, but if you don't get to the truth and get to the core of something, then nothing will matter. Because all you're doing is substituting your fear of doing right and living in wrong. And I ain't even sorry, fuck that. I'm just saying this. Today is a real day. And if you really want change, you have to accept how people live their lives and how people feel. But I wanted to stay on these subjects because I knew how important and how misconstrued they can become. I'm done.
Gotcha. That sounds like that starts our roundabout. Was that your final word? That was the word.
That was it.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Drury, we doing finals out. Summarization before we go out.
The thing about that is he is 100% correct, except for the fact of saying that, I mean, we can have a whole nother conversation on the word of white privilege and the concept of white privilege, because that's a whole nother day that I can discuss all day. I think the problem there is that as he was talking about that, you know, that I use my techniques like raising my hand and things like that, that somehow makes it that I'm not listening to him and I'm not hearing it. And tell you the truth, some of it I don't have to hear too deeply or think about, like I'm puzzling it, because I understand these things. I mean, like I said, I mean, I never know what it's like to you. Like I agree with you. I'll never fucking know what it's like to be a black man in America. But I know what it's like to have a group of people beat the living fuck out of me simply because I'm white. No other reason. I'm white. I'm the minority. I don't know what it's like to be a black man, but I know what it's like to be told that I will not be hired. I mean, I know what it's like to be told, just, I mean, fuck, man. So you have to take, not everybody is everybody else. And I might have, the thing is, I have I do, believe me, my white privilege is fucking checked. It's checked all the time and by all kinds of people, because I have these conversations with people. I understand, but you also have to understand that not everybody has that lily fucking cracker life that you see on TV. I am not that. I do not, there is rarely any real reputation of who the fuck I am on TV. Just from the experience and the history that I grew up in and the environment I grew up in. Like, fuck Eminem. Fuck Eminem. He's a sellout. He's you know, he's just a homophobic piece of trash. Like, he is a byproduct of a system that taught him what to say. You know, yeah, maybe he grew up in a, you know, and, you know, he grew up in a, he's not me. Fuck him. He's a problem. He's part of the problem. Like, I've had a different experience. I've grown up with almost all my friends, almost everybody, the majority of my community being of color. And I see where it is, where I'm treated in their community. And then I go out and I see the national average. I see that, I mean, shit, like I said, dude, like, I literally, not with a twisted T, but I mean, I literally, and it's not just like, I don't like it when black people are constantly using the N-word. I will give you like 3 or 4 or 5, and I'll be like, you need to learn a different word.
Mind your business.
Like, you need to represent your people better. Like, stop. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry.
Like, you represent my people. I sit there and be like, that's gay, that's gay. Oh my God, no, dude.
I don't know why those people let you do that, but
you know, and I'm just like, especially if they've already said faggot. Like, if you said faggot like 5 times and then you're just like, nigga this, and nigga that.
now we are in the conversation that me and you were on Facebook. Now we are back.
Just stop. I don't want to hear it. You're
Because
ignorant.
what I don't want to hear is, I understand you have passion for this, and this might have been what you had going on with the people that you were around. You are now around some other people, and you not around me, you won't be saying nigga, period. I don't care if you are telling a story. So
yeah, okay. Boundaries.
But I am the person that, when we were on that Facebook post that started all of, you know, this podcast, that was the catalyst for this, that was me. And that was my issue, is that you were, that you used that, like, to where, okay, well, I'm gonna say this because you say this. Fine, that's between you and that person, whatever the argument is. Don't bring it to other people because you haven't had that experience with somebody else. I'm not saying that word to you. And so you know, okay, in explaining your experience, you also explain that if somebody does this, then this is how I'm gonna be. When nobody's asking you that shit. Nobody is like, you know what I'm saying? So
okay,
I would just try to reframe that story that you have about your past when you're trying to, when you're speaking to people who aren't like that. I understand there are people.
I kind of did it hyperbolically too. Like, I don't just throw it out. Like, I'm not one of those people that just uses this in a context ever.
But I think hold on, go ahead.
No, period. Like I shut it down to anybody.
I've been quiet the whole show, bro. Hey, I've been quiet the whole show. You sitting here talking about how you don't like to hear nigga this, nigga this, nigga this. I don't give a damn how many times you heard it. What you're not gonna do is what you just did. And then number 2, how many times you say cracker on this show? Exactly. So once and for all, I'm gonna just say, check it at the door, straight up, because I've been quiet, I've been patient. You don't want my passion, bro.
Okay, sorry. I like the thing is, sometimes I use, how to put it? It's weird when you're in a conversation to be able to put shit in quotes. You know what I mean? So it's not like, I use it as an example. just as, okay.
Can I ask you something, Drury?
And it wasn't, yeah, I was using that as an example that if somebody else is acting in that manner, but I wouldn't just do that. Like,
Right, but here's the thing.
No.
Do that.
When I first saw one of the statements that you were discussing, and I think this is the one that Kela is talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm trying to figure out who is your circle of people around you that are allowing, I mean, at the end of the day, can't nobody tell us what to do. We can't tell you what to do. But
yeah.
I will say that I surround myself with a group of people that when I am wrong and coming off the cuff incorrectly, they check me. So
yeah, exactly. That's what I do.
Hold on, wait.
That's what I'm saying. I'm the checker.
Hold on. So I will say that I have had, and we've talked about this before on this show, I have had where I have been in contact with some white people who maybe this one particular from Montana only saw Black people on TV, had a meal, and then flew her ass into Norfolk International Airport to come to Hampton Roads. Was floored at the amount of Black people that there were. Okay. She had so many questions about Black people. However, she could not find the safe space to ask the questions. So I gave her the safe space to talk to me about whatever it is you want to know about Black people. Don't go out on the floor where we working at and ask these questions, because you're going to get your ass in trouble. But if you need an answer, I will be your unofficial delegate of Black people to give you the insight that you need to be able to navigate against within the culture or with the culture. But I am trying to figure out, and again, I believe that a lot of the things and the ideas that you have are on point. I read your whole story about it's not about the sin, it's the sin, not the sinner. I read what you write, and I think that you have some very good insight on some of the things you write. But you're right, this was that Catalyst post. I understand, because again, we don't got to agree, but we gonna have to understand. I understand and agree with you with this piece that, yeah, I believe that your experience in your life with African-American males and females may have called you all of those horrific derogatory terms that you have experienced. I believe you. I also believe that people have fucked with you for driving around in whatever car in Nicole Hahn, Michael Kors heels. I believe they have fucked with you that as well. I believe that all the traumas that you have experienced have happened to you. And I am sorry that you experienced them, but I also understand that those are the things that help form your view of the United States of America. Whether it be the Blacks, Chinese, Asians, LGBTQ, all of your life experiences combined have made you the person that you are today. And even still, you still go out and I'm marching about this, I'm protesting about this, I'm fighting fucking cops. You're doing, I feel, a lot of right things. You are. But when anybody on this crew, and I don't even know if in your life, I don't, because I'm only going by what I've seen you post. I don't know you. So I'm going based off the picture of yourself that you're displaying to the world, okay? Is that I saw you say, I can't go out into the street for 5 minutes without somebody Black calling me a this, a that, a this, all of these derogatory words. I believe you. But your response cannot be, well, if you want to call me the F or a gay or this or this or that, then I can in turn call you this. No, you can't. You may be able to you may be physically able to, but there's going to be repercussions that come behind that statement, which unfortunately,
well, that's the thing.
Those repercussions are going to be fucked up because your mindset is not built that way. but your actions show it as such.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I am a fan of a lot of stuff that you write, but I think that some of the execution fucks up your whole concept. Your whole concept. I don't mind walking down the street in a protest with Drewry and let you borrow whatever pair of shoes you want to upstairs. Because I've done it before with a whole lot of my LGBTQ friends. I will do that with you. But where I have to separate you is when I see I just say nigga hush. Oh, you don't like that I said nigga, then stop saying faggot. Hold on, homie. You might not make it to the second sentence.
Right.
I mean, you have negated all of the good shit you have said and done for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Well, I feel that, that's the thing, is what I'm saying is I feel that way about the F word. Like, I will straight up, I will punch you in the face.
And that's fine.
So, and that's the consequence. The thing is, there's a difference in society. There's a difference in society, though, where saying that is okay. Saying that is okay.
No, it's not okay for us.
No.
It's okay for the society that you, the societal circle that you roll in. It must be acceptable, because I'm telling you, if
no,
you
it's not. Like I said, like most of
walking down the street and somebody says that shit to you, I'm telling you, the 1-2 piece is coming before you even get to catch a feeling.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I never do, like, okay, I would say maybe once in every like 3 years, I'll even respond with the N-word. Normally I just say, if you're saying either the N-word or the F-word or something like that over and over again in your conversation, in any manner that's derogatory, whether it's passively derogatory or whatever, I'm going to say, please just stop using that word. Find another word, right? I'm not going to straight up and be like, oh, no, like the only time that even comes up is if the person has already called me the N-word like 6 times.
What
in the fight, like you get hyped and they're like, and I'm like, yo, and
I've been cussed out. I've been called a bitch by a 5-year-old. Okay, I was called a bitch by a 5-year-old. Is my response to call that 5-year-old a bitch? Like, I'm going to be wrong if I call that 5-year-old a bitch. That is
some 5-year-olds need to be called a bitch or a bigot.
What I'm saying.
Yeah,
and if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. What I think, if you don't like that people call you the F word, then why do you the word that you, out of all the words that are necessary, like that you can use, and all the insults and everything that because you want to make that person hurt, why is that the word that you choose?
But that's the thing, is I don't ever use it because I'm using it as a text to hurt you.
I don't
I'm
care.
using it to use it as an example of, look, this is what you are representing yourself as. And so but that's the thing, is like if, okay, it's not a, should I have the right to say it? Should you have the right to say it? Nobody should have the right to say any of these fucking things.
Right.
But when you say it like it's just saying, oh, okay, well, I went to lunch today. I don't care if it's the N-word or the F-word. Stop.
Then that is,
and if it gets to the point where you're in my face about it, I'm sorry, if you're in my face about it and you're calling me the F-word and the N-word over and over and over again, then
if you
then why does it come out of your mouth? If you don't like it, then why does it come out of your mouth? If you don't like somebody else to say it,
exactly. And I know, and it's a hypocrisy, but it's also,
at least we honest.
For me, it's a point to make you step back and analyze. Okay, well, cool. Well, and because like last time, that's what I'll say. And really, when I say it, it's usually like this. Well, you just called me a like 7 times in a row. I don't say you're a, I say you just called me the exact same word.
Why are you still there? You have the right to remove yourself. If
this is like
a circle of people and they have called you the F word 3 times, why did you stay around for the other 4 to make it to 7?
Because in some situations, like if I'm on the bus, I can't just step off the bus when it's mid-movement and the person is in my face threatening to up or whatever, so, and I use, that's what I do, is I try to be like, look, I was like, you already called me this, and it'll just basically be, I'll be like, look, and it's a passionate thing, and it's because like I said, I grew up predominantly around African American people. My friends all like, you know, a lot of my Black friends, when they greet me, they're like, oh, my, you know,
But
and I
here's the
just say
thing,
it back.
I think it's comfortability. Let me say this. Now I can say one thing for you.
And it's
Hold
not,
on. I can say this for you because I relate to this. Being bullied is a very dangerous thing. I can relate to your triggers because I can see your triggers. Now that I've actually released what I needed to release, I can say this. I've been bullied on buses. I have been cornered in locker rooms. But the thing about it is, the one thing that my mother taught me, and she taught me this very well, you have to learn when responding is dangerous, son. You have to learn when your reaction, Junior, is going to cost you maybe your life or even just a little bit more than what you're willing to give. And in those moments, I want to fight back. I want to use my words, but I'm going to tell you this. If you, the person that is the activist, and this is something for you to think about for yourself in the mirror, because I am a community leader and I'm an activist. And even in the midst of me arguing and even of me cursing, I still was deliberate in my mind. And I said with intention, and I let everybody know I'm not apologizing. This is what I'm going to do. And I understand the consequences because I have taught kids. I've gone places. I'm a motivational speaker. And sometimes you have to put it out there, but you have to understand if you're being an activist for the LGBTQ community and you're speaking about Black and people that are white that are raised in Black neighborhoods, yes, there becomes a comfortability and there becomes a lot of things that we should not allow, because that comfortability gonna hurt you like it's hurting now, in the sense of it puts you in a position to be powerless, because the people that you were raised with are not the people that you're with right now. They're not the people that you're hanging out in the office. These are people that are looking at you like probably the enemy. And those that are disrespecting you, you're just going to have to figure out the way. But being an activist, the one thing that a dangerous thing that you can do is be a hypocrite to your truth. Like, I will never, never call somebody that. You know what I'm saying? If I understand in the midst of it all, it's an educational moment. We got to get things done. And even now with our music, I'm changing the dialogue, even with my music, Deaf to Miles music. I try to put out the narrative of positivity, inspiration, because we are the ones that are responsible for the narrative. So I think the best thing for me, and just kind of relating a little bit, is letting you understand. I always say we need to build bridges instead of ditches. And the way you build a bridge is understanding whatever you sign up for, and you put yourself in the front line for it, you have to accept, even though it's easy to say, it's not something that you should do. Because what happens is you're going to get confronted. You're going to get people that's going to be at war with you. And this is the last thing I want to say. When I was young, I'm a church boy, of course, I was going to be a pastor, quote, anyway. But I was blessed by this woman. She wore makeup really, really heavy. She went to this church. She went to the church, and the men and the women in the church did not believe in makeup. So I didn't know that. She started taking the makeup off. And I was like, why are you taking off your makeup? Why are you taking off your makeup? And she said, is it better for them to hear me or not listen to me at all because of what I look like? And I learned the biggest lesson, because her job was to give the word. Her job was to teach. And so in her decision, I thought like, nah, don't stop being you. But she's saying, I have a job to do. And in my job to do it, especially when it's being an activist and a community leader, you have to recognize some lines that you have to cross and some lines that you cannot cross. And that's just something to encourage you, because like she said, she read your stuff, she agrees with you, but I think the way you write and the way you speak do not match, and you need to work on your speaking, because that is something that's going to be clutch for you, so people can really ride the road from you. Because if you like, Dizzy is really big on words and she's really big on support. So she says she loves what she's reading from you, but what you're saying is not matching. That's something else that you need to think about. Because my job is, if I'm going to give you encouragement, which I'm doing now, and I'm going to uplift you as a human being, I have to tell you, these are the things that you're messing up in, but these are the things that are great. And this goes back to what I said before. We have to recognize truth, get to the root of it so that we can heal. If not, what is going to happen? And Drury, I don't want that for you, but people are not as light-hearted when they come to this. And I know it, because I've been beat. I mean, when I say beat, I've been beat. and it's not cute. And I had to learn, sometimes you gotta be quiet. You gotta walk away and you gotta figure out another game plan. And one of the game plans was not going out by myself. So just figure out what works. You know what I mean?
Just one,
There's
just one real quick thing on that is, I know by the way that we talked about it, and because this discussion that we're having, I've kind of made it seem like I do that like in my daily life, like every day, that like every time somebody says these words all the time, that I'm just popping off at the mouth.
No,
like I do it maybe, and I get it. What?
We're not saying that.
Go ahead,
Candice.
That's not what we gathered. We understood you to say that, okay, it's when someone's in your face and they're, nigga, or whatever the conversation is, that, it's kind of a trigger, not necessarily it is, but it's kind of when you push somebody to that point, like you keep on poking this bear, and when that motherfucker lasts out
then I
on
break.
you, then
Like I bump.
So we're not taking it as this is something that you have to deal with on a daily basis with everybody all in your face all the time. No. However, there is a time and a place for everything. So with the crew that you grew up with and the people that you have in your circle, you said that you're the checker. That's cool. However, everybody in the circle needs to be checked at any point in time. And it just so happens that this is your checkpoint. So the thing that we're trying to get off to you is, even in your inner circle, you can discuss different things with those people and they all know you, you all know them. I mean, you know all of them, and y'all are continuously talking about different things, and you can be comfortable with each other and discuss certain things that you can't discuss with other people. There's a circle that each person on this panel has, that we can discuss different things with different people. And it's like the people that I got in my inner circle, okay, I can relax. I can let my hair down. If I want to, I can take my bra off, and we're going to have a whole conversation, and we're going to get to the root of whatever this is. And I can be my authentic self and say exactly whatever it is that's in my head. And they're going to give me dialogue and explain things to me, but like, no, this is where you fucked up. This is what you should have said. Or this is what this, your thinking was a little off. You had the right concept, but this is what you should have done. I can bounce ideas off of that small circle, because that's what we give and take from each other. But I can't have that same conversation with a group of new individuals, because they don't know me personally, and they don't know exactly how I am, and they haven't been with me for years or understanding what I came from and how I got to this point. So that's why we're saying, when you got to this point, when you was over here saying nigga, that's when you get punched in the face, because you can't say that around a bunch of people that you don't know, because Black people don't take that shit kindly. Motherfucker, you gonna catch a 3-piece in a bitch. I'm just saying.
And we, in a diplomatic fashion, said, hold up, wait a minute. Let me
see, the thing is, like, even when I was saying it, I was like, I hope somebody calls me the fuck out for this. Like, it wasn't like well, it's more, it's like, I hope this triggers this part of the conversation. It wasn't that. It was, like I said, the reason I say it is to trigger that exact conversation.
So that's
okay. I'm triggered.
Okay. So that we can have it, like we were talking about before. Like, the reason we have these problems because we don't talk about it. So when it happens, when you're the one acting ignorant and you're the one in my face, then I'm gonna show you a mirror to your fucking face. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
You're not that color.
If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Like, but I'm not going to change you up. Like I'm not going to let you treat me that way.
But
and
what
then
do you
expect that I can't treat you the same way.
What do you accomplish?
Yeah.
Nothing. I can answer that. And I've been right, and I've been quiet.
I really listen to you, Kaban, like, because it's true. I have that as a fault I even know in my personality, that I go that extra, I throw it over the, there's a line in the sand and I throw it over, and I do it for sensualism because I want.
Lance just said that you probably did on purpose, but you can never ever be a mirror of something that you're not. You're not Black. So therefore, the only thing that me and you are mirroring is that we're both gay, and I understand we both have been bullies. And that is what I was able to talk to you. So maybe that's another thing in this of learning, is that this is a part of wisdom. Because I'm glad that came up, because once again, this is a real moment. you can never ever be what you're not. Like, no matter how many, hold on, no matter how many white people I may hang around with, I will never be white. No matter how many women I hang around with, I'll never be a woman. So no matter how much you may understand Black culture and Black things, as long as you're not Black, you're not Black. But what we can appreciate is your Black experience because you have one. You've been hanging around, you've been in situations. And I think sometimes we don't want to accept even that in our communities, because I could say easily, I'm not a comedian, I'm not one. But if I hang around one, I can have a comedic experience. But guess what? It will never give me the right to get on a platform and say what the theory and the math of being a comedian is. That is disrespectful because I'm not really authentic to it. So that's something that you have to understand, that you're not authentically Black. So therefore, by you saying something that's not you, you're going to get the negative response every single time from the very thing that you think that you're helping, because you're not, you're offending. And it goes back to building the bridge instead of a ditch. And I think that's really, I think if anything for you today, I thank you for challenging me, because it helped me to become something I didn't know and to learn something that I didn't know even about myself. But I hope for you, you understand the things that you need to do in order to become an effective activist. Because an effective activist, especially in 2021, not slave day, not when we prisoners like that day. We still got things going on, but people are too egotistical, they're too self-righteous, they're very judgmental, and they are ready for war. And when you're in a decade that is ready for war, you have to know how to be an activist and know how to teach peace in the midst of destruction, in the midst of violence. What makes me so great and so blessed is because I believe in balance. I believe even with my fury and my anger, I'm still able to give you something to eat off of. Because if I can't feed you, then I'm going to kill you. And that's not the will in a human being that's supposed to be creating a mankind thing, like Kela said, and everybody said, humankind coming together. So I really am actually thankful. At first I was mixed up, I'm gonna be honest. I'm be honest with you. You had me, this had me in a lot of places. But I am thankful because I know that this is the kind of visuals that people need. Even seeing my brother Tyrone, I'm glad he reacted, because at first I was like, well, Kamani, you really in trouble, because if Tyrone don't react, then you really have to. So I was like, so he said, no, I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I was like, all right.
I suggest that everyone, because I already know I'm not going to be able to do all of these comments, but there is an amazing conversation going on in the chat right now, which I think is going to spark a whole other episode for us to discuss, because they are talking about the use of these derogatory words, what it means, who has the right and doesn't have the right to interject in others' conversations and things like that. I think it's a good conversation. And the reason I say this, because we said it several times within this show, there's things that people have always told us we're not allowed to talk about. But I will tell you, on this show and this platform, we are going to talk about those things, because how the hell are we supposed to have any sort of clarity if we don't talk about them? I agree. I'm gonna let Tiff say her piece, because she had her hand up. And this is gonna be the outro, because damn it, it is 3-something now. Look, I didn't try to close the show twice, but we just keep getting on good shit. And I know y'all got stuff to do this Sunday, but I swear I am taking notes of other shows that we need to have, because my goal, I already know one show is not gonna fix it. One show's not, but I think that we got the juices flowing in people's brains to say, I didn't think of it like this, I didn't see it like this, I didn't realize certain things, which I think is a good thing. Tiff, what did you want to say, hon?
What I wanted to say was this. Drew, I think the thing that has pierced something with everyone here is the fact that you always got something to say, bruh. I need you to just stop speaking sometimes and listen, absorb it, work on it, then come back to us with something. And part of that is, you mentioned it earlier, you know you have privilege and you've used your privilege and you're trying to use it today, but that ain't working. I'm trying not to be angry because I know you're coming from a good place. We
Right.
know this, but your delivery is shit, okay? Your delivery has to be better, okay? My mom always taught me, you wanna be smart or do you wanna be right? And in your case, it appears, because like Dizzy said, we don't know you, bro. It appears that you always wanna be right. And in your quest to always be right, you come off as real wrong to the incorrect people, because you always want to be right on eventually, and you have already spoken on how it's already gotten your ass whooped. So I'm gonna need you to back up on that. And a lot of us have just been, kind of absorbing and listening and stuff. Some of the stuff that you're gonna hear, you're not gonna like, man. And you don't always have to explain. Explanations are not always needed. Just be quiet, absorb. And that's us trying to give you a little bit of a nugget to kind of help things be a little bit better, so that people won't always take you as being how people believe that you are. I'm not going to start calling you no names in here, bro. I'm not doing that.
Right.
But you come off a certain way because you're always doing this and you're never doing this. Hush, open knees. That's how I'm gonna end it.
Amen.
Kela,
I love you.
you don't have nothing?
I love you, bondage.
Yes, I will. Great conversation. Thank you, Drury. I thought me and you would have a little bit more interaction. I'm glad you kind of saved that story until the end, because I think it allowed a lot of other conversations to happen before that conversation happened. So I didn't know if you were going to bring it up, but when you did, you know what I mean? It did light a fire. So I think that part was good. I think it gave Cabana a chance to speak to you. And I thought that was very, very powerful, that he was able to connect, with you on that after the interaction that you guys had earlier, which I hope, kind of opened everybody's mind to how things can be when in conversations that are as heated as this. And I'll end with the conversation that's going on in the chat is talking about, the N-word and white people being able to say it, Black people being able to say it, or nobody being able to say it. And I just want to end with this. It's, if you hear Black people speaking to one another, I've said this before, stay out of Black people's business. If they're not speaking to you, if you guys aren't at a situation that is about all of you, about all people, but maybe they are just in their own bubble and, doing what they do, stay out of their business. I don't, Lance was saying something about children being around and not wanting to hear the N-word and stuff like that, which I can understand. That's what you want for your children. However, that family, those people who you want to approach, they are not your responsibility and your kids are not their responsibility. This is the world. We're going to hear all types of things that we don't want to hear in this world. And if Black people are congregating with each other and they are just doing their thing, please don't approach them and try to tell them to stop speaking to each other in a certain way. And so that's the advice that I'm gonna go out with. I definitely want to have that maybe deeper conversation and dissect it a little bit more, but just on the surface, don't think that it's safe to approach Black people doing their own thing and just try to start telling them shit as if you massa or something. That's not gonna work for me.
Okay. Tyrone? Oh no, hold on. Let me do Candice. Candice, because she got to bounce. Candice, sorry.
Yeah. We're gonna come back and table it and chat with that later, because this is really deep. Like Kavana said, this is a layer cake, and I don't even think we got the full plate yet. So we still working on the first layer. We got to do this. Y'all wash your hands, wash your ass, wear your mask, because some of y'all breath stink, and don't nobody else want this variant of coronavirus floating around. I don't want that shit.
Go ahead, girl. Go cook for your baby.
I love you, Candice.
Babe,
Mm.
Tyrone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm reluctant to speak because I don't want to add more energy to that negativity. Y'all know I love to push positivity.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, man. Hey, D. I don't know how to say your name the right way. Drury. Drury.
Yeah.
Listen, bro. I agree. All the way with Tiffany. You gotta calm that down, bro. Like I'm telling you now, cause I'm not feeling that vibe, bro. You know, you've never seen me on this show get heated. I'm telling you, and I'm telling you the reason why I say that to you now is because I was all for understanding your standpoint. I was all for it. Everybody has a mouth. Humans are human. Humanity is supposed to work together. We're supposed to understand each other, but your privilege is showing, bro. You not here to listen. You here to get some kind of point across, and I just don't understand what your agenda is. And even if you don't feel like you have one, please believe that's what it came across as.
All right, so I'm gonna let you say something, Drury.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just like, it's weird.
Wait.
I
You're
know.
doing it, bro. You still doing
Ready
it.
to go.
Oh, sorry.
Seemed like you
I
could.
want you to listen to something really quick. These are not my words. What I'm about to read are not my words.
Oh.
Okay? The idea that one marginalized and systematically oppressed community might belittle or discredit another is rather mind-boggling, to be honest. As if the path to ending the cycle of oppression will simply end with them. Like there is no limit to how much justice can be served at any given moment. It's this mentality that keeps perpetuating the systems that keep oppression alive. If those that are being discriminated against and marginalized waste all of their energy fighting each other, then they won't be able to turn that energy on the roots of the problem itself. Hatred, intolerance, and greed. Every form of oppression is premised on varying levels of all three of these flaws of morality. Only through acts of compassion, tolerance, love, and a sense of understanding can any one of us hope to curb the cycle of oppression. Those words are the words of Drury. Those were written by you, my friend. Those words are the words that made me say, hold on a second, I gotta talk to this dude. That's just a piece of that piece that you wrote that even sparked my interest in you. And so I hope that you understand that as powerful of a writer that you are able to articulate these things beautifully. But please be careful about your personal execution, or those words I just read don't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, and I think a lot of it has to do with my anxiety of coming on the show, not knowing the format, not knowing the people, not knowing anybody, and also, let's say I'm the minority on the panel at the moment. I mean, I'm the only white male gay person, or pan, or whatever the fuck I am, this week or whatever. So, like, people piss me off, so I cut certain things off for a while. And then, but so, like, and you're right, I'm because I am an author. I've written a sci-fi series, like, hoping to publish soon. And so I am a lot more. And also because when you sit down and you write, you can look back over it, you can rewrite it, but when you're in a back and forth, or even a monologue, it's on the spot, and you didn't have the time to articulate the actual verbiage or words in which you were choosing to use. And so, yeah, I mean, so in a more relaxed environment, I guarantee, I'm looking back, half the shit that I said are not the way in which I wanted to even say them. Like, but the thing is, I wanted to get it out faster so that we could eventually get to more shit.
Right.
But I didn't take the number of words or the entire context of, you know, and I get that. And the thing is, I failed all of you. I failed every single one of you with the way in which I present myself today, because that's not even how I am. Like even the examples that I said where I said the word that triggered the, you know.
Don't use the word failure. I just talked about this in a class. I'm a motivational speaker. One of the tips that I can give you again is failure is another word. We have to change the narrative of what we do. Life is about living. When you do something and it doesn't work out, you put it on repeat and you master it. You're now introducing yourself into a world that you have to becoming. You know, you're going to be a person that needs to speak. And I think this is a blessing for you, because this is where all these explosions happen for you. But just imagine if you were on The View. Just imagine if you was on Good Morning America, even though our show is just as big. Amen. Amen. Let's start to shift. But it's very important for you to understand where people are deliberately understanding. You're going to shows and platforms where they're not deliberately understanding. So this is a time in the season for you get back in boot camp training and really look for things. And I will say this, I will let Dizzy have a DM where you can hit me if you would like me to assist you in helping you, because the only thing that I can do is help you in how you say things and how you communicate things, because it really is very dangerous. So don't say failure. You're just learning and mastering your weaknesses, and you have to decide if you are ready to make them a strength.
Thank you. Yeah. Like I said, like, I don't know, it's weird. I'm a lot more articulate when I know people, if that makes sense.
Comfortable. I get it.
Like I don't feel the need to kind of back and forth with you so much. I don't feel the need to make sure that, because that's the thing, when you meet new people, you have walls, and then you build like these little, like, you know, your boundaries, your little paths to your boundaries with people. And I mean, and that's one of the things too, is the personality I am. The moment you first meet me, I'm just balls out about everything. I don't give a fuck. I will tell you I won't go into detail, but I'll tell you like exactly about the different things I've been through, like rape and all that. So that puts a lot of people off. I know I'm an intense fucking personality. And not everybody's used to that, especially when they're not used to it in the manner in which sometimes I present it. And I understand sometimes that's not the right way to do it. I didn't read the room. Fuck it. Like, I did it.
Drury, that's okay, because guess what? You've already had individuals on this panel, myself included. I love your word. I love your message. We just want, I have no problem helping. My girl Denise jumped in here and was like, Dizzy, help groom him. I don't have a problem helping to groom, because I think the words that you have and the message that you have needs to be heard. It needs to be heard. And if we are the team, myself, I know Cabana reached out, but if we're the team to try to help you get your true message out there, I have no problem assisting that. But I can't put one message out there, and like you said, you hope to be published one day, which would be amazing. But how detrimental would it be? You are published, you on a book tour, you are selling books, you are interviewing, because every time you go to a show, you're not gonna know them people either. And you're not gonna know the audience, you're not gonna know those people. How crazy would it be that all of these people have loved and fed and eaten these words that you have served them, and then they heard you had a nigga hush moment at AHA. Got you? So we're gonna have you on the show again. We have got to close What You Got to Say, because it is 3:34. We've been on this for 2.5 hours.
Unfortunately, that happens when I'm involved with shit. Shit just takes longer because I'll talk and y'all talk.
Okay.
That's just how it works in my family.
We will be on next week. Next week is March, right? Next week, we will be doing vodka cocktails with one another. So please tune in for that. And we will also be joined by our French cohorts. So the French, What You Got to Say France staff will be on camera with us next week. God bless y'all. Talk to each other, not at each other. All right? Love y'all.
I need help, Tiff.